Welcome back to another sports preview. I'm Andy Hewing, joined by Delaney Barrow. We're going to break down the big matchup between Auburn and Kentucky. This is a top 20 matchup, another big test for the Auburn Tigers as they welcome in the mighty Kentucky Wildcats, who are really rolling right now after a big win against Texas Tech and a comeback win against Vanderbilt on Wednesday night. So Delaney, previewing this game, what do you expect from both teams as they're coming into this game? It's a big primetime game. It's going to be a great atmosphere in Auburn Arena. What do you look for both these teams?
I think it's going to be a really exciting matchup. It's Auburn's first ranked opponent, and I know that it kind of seemed like the Tigers were hitting their stride early in the season, and then they had a couple hiccups. And on the other hand, it really seems like the Kentucky Wildcats are hitting their stride now at the perfect time. So I think it'll be interesting to see if Auburn can continue on their win streak and pick back up where they started off in the beginning of the season.
And there's not going to be many ranked opponents left for Auburn to play. They could face LSU, who's now ranked in the low 20s. But do you think that this game will play a pivotal part as far as Auburn's RPI and even seed in the NCAA tournament?
I think definitely it will, because this game has a lot of potential to build their confidence. As we saw on Tuesday when they played Ole Miss, it showed that the team had tons of character and they were determined and they used their grit and they fought till the very end. And I think that this game is, if they continue to play like that, this game is going to be very important in those final standings once the tournament comes around.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Ole Miss game where Auburn was down 19. They came back, won in double overtime. There was talk that Bruce said on the radio show that he might kind of flip the lineup up, and he said yesterday in the press conference that he doesn't intend to do that at all because he trusts his guys. Do you think that there should be any changes at all, or is that just kind of talk coming from like the media and just fans who want to see a little bit better performances from Auburn, especially in the first half?
I think that Auburn's lineup will probably stay the same, and that is a lot of talk. But at the same time, one player to watch coming off the bench who could potentially start would be Anthony McLemore, who had that career-high 19-point game off the bench against Ole Miss, led the team in scoring, and I think if any changes occur, it could involve him for sure.
Yeah, and McLemore really was clutch with a huge three-pointer in double overtime to give Auburn a 1-point lead, which helped them go on and secure the win. So yeah, McLemore will be a huge part because Bruce talked about him being that sixth man. He's probably should be sixth man of the year, really, in the NCAA because he's been so consistent from three. I think that's a huge part of Auburn. But let's flip into Kentucky, as obviously you talked about. They were coming in on a hot streak. They've got three guys who are probably in the running for SEC Player of the Year: Ashton Hagans, Tyrese Maxey, and Nick Richards. Talk about them and what challenges they face for Auburn.
Well, I know Kentucky as a whole, they too have also had some shooting inconsistency, especially from far out. And so they do play a little bit slower than Auburn's offense. And I think that the key for Auburn to shut them down is to push them out and force them to play fast, because they're not they have a few guys who are consistent from the three, but it's not the whole team. And so I think that pushing them out and keeping them there is going to be key.
Yeah, and Nick Richards is averaging 19 points a game right now, and he's probably, leading statistically in points right now and up in the categories in the SEC. He's going to be a physical presence, but how does Auburn stop him down low? Because he's going to be making those really, really easy shots, layups. How does Auburn's big men stop him?
Big men would definitely include Austin Wiley, so I think that he'll just have to play tough defense, and I know that Kentucky has a size advantage against Auburn, so Auburn's going to have to use the taller players that they have in order to stop the players down low.
Yeah, and Ashton Hagans obviously has kind of a connection with Auburn, as he was recruited by the Tigers very heavily. Bruce even mentioned that yesterday, that Hagans wanted to come to Auburn, but then Calipari offered him a scholarship to play at Kentucky, and he took him up on that offer. So do you think there's kind of, I don't know, not hatred, but a little bit of an edge for him coming into Auburn just because this is somewhere that he really was recruited heavily?
I think it definitely could have an effect, and it'll probably force them to play harder, put in more effort, kind of to show Auburn what they were missing. But I think that at the same time, it's two very talented programs, and I'm sure he's happy where he is. But also, on the other hand, if it would have gone the other way, could be very different right now.
Yeah, and Auburn has won 3 out of the last 6 matchups with Kentucky. If they win Saturday, do you think it kind of says something about where Auburn's heading as a program, and even just in the SEC, that they're starting to become one of the top teams to look out for? Whereas a couple years ago, we would have just said Kentucky, and the rest is history because Kentucky was just so dominant. Do you think there's kind of a changing of the guard as far as Kentucky's dominance?
I think in a way, yes. Definitely a win would mean a lot for the program. It would continue to show that the program is able to bounce back from losses and wins that are way closer than they should have been. But I think definitely Auburn is making their place, and a win would definitely, it would mean a lot, but at the same time, it would be just a win because Auburn has already proved so much this year.
And obviously the big news is that this game is the outlive game. Bruce Pearl's foundation in the fight against cancer, that he's really just made impacts at Tennessee and now at Auburn. And then game day's coming here as well, so that's just creating this atmosphere. Do you think Auburn's going to really be on a platform to show the country like what they're about, and the students obviously being one of the loudest in the country?
Yeah, I think it really will show the country what Auburn's about. I heard that Coach Pearl is buying the student section, the Outlive shirts, in order to continue that campaign. I heard also that they're going to be tailgating options, which hasn't been done for a basketball game. And so I think it's really just Auburn stepping up as more of a basketball school in a sense.
Yeah, and it's going to be really exciting. But let's hop into some X factors for the game. Delaney, who's your player to watch for?
My player to watch would probably be McLemore, just because he had such a huge game on Tuesday, and I think that all eyes are on him right now, seeing if he'll continue that streak or if it was kind of just a one and done thing. But I think he's going to be looking to prove that he is consistent with his scoring, especially when it comes to clutch plays.
And my player to watch for is Ashton Hagans. Hagans had a really good season last year, but this season he's kind of the veteran because he could have gone to the NBA, but he decided to stay. He's really leading the Wildcats well right now. I think Auburn's going to have to put somebody on him that can guard him, like Javon McCormick, Samir Dowdy, even Isaac Okoro. I could see Okoro switching onto him because of his versatility, and Okoro plays really good defense. So I think Auburn's going to have to throw a little wrinkle to stop him, and maybe that might open up some more chances for other players for Kentucky to score. But if you can limit Hagans, you can limit a good amount of their team. So I think he will be one to watch for, and he can definitely make dynamic plays. Well, that's going to do it for us. I'm Andy Hewling, joined by Delaney Barrow. It's going to be an exciting weekend as Auburn will face Kentucky. Be sure to check out College Game Day at 10 a.m. on ESPN and the actual game at 5 p.m. on ESPN. Also, stay tuned for live coverage of Eagle Eye's recap from the game as Delaney Barrow and Sam Humphrey will be there. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting weekend. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.